The Umbanda New Earth Ashram social media platforms and the dissemination of information put forth on those platforms is by and large a labor of love at this point, and a sense and the execution of a sense of mission, of responsibility to the collective. And as such, I become very excited when a sort of personal request is sent forth, um, in this case, in regards to the great book by Matthias Fleury, Downloads from the Nine, Awaken as You Read. And there was a request or an inquiry made about chapter 3 of this book and whether or not that I had read this book or presented a video about this book, Downloads from the Nine by Matthias Fleury. I can't remember if I have I don't go back to my videos. I got over like, I don't know, 4,000, 5,000 videos. It's a stupendous at this point. I became very excited, so I just figured I would address this particular chapter. I didn't even have time to properly attire myself. However, with the God force raging within me, flaming within me, I decided to create this information dissemination video for your consideration, dear viewer, and in particular for the viewer who had made the inquiry about chapter 3. Now, this book, I'm going to tell you, Downloads from the Nine by Matthias Fleury. I'll leave the information in the video, thumbnail information, was actually the first book that I read post Kundalini God Force activation back in September of 2021. I think it was the 24th when the actual release of the God Force took place, the activation of the Kundalini. But this book, Downloads from the Nine, was very important for me after that experience, which, if you know anything about that process, it's a complete reordering of orientation, to put it in one way. But that's not the point. The point is, this book was very important to me as far as grounding my energies back in, as far as beginning to put back the pieces that were blown apart in the God Force. One thing I can tell you is that all falsehood was burned from me by this Kundalini God Force activation. So, and by and large, that was the dismantling of the ego, the human ego construct that I had managed to build and live with for, what am I? I'm 55 now, so what, 4 years ago? Anyway, this book, Downloads from the Nine, was very instrumental in helping me put things back together, to ground my energies and to reassure me that what I had went through was not abnormal. It was part of the divine plan. And this book is very scientific. And this chapter 3 of Downloads from the Nine, is very scientific. And I'm not going to read the entire chapter. I'm going to give you an example of the language and the information from this book. Because I think a lot of people who are normies and still asleep and still mesmerized by the lies of the false 3D matrix of enslavement, which has been 2,000 years of Roman mental domination, first by the Empire of Rome and how they spread their mind virus of domination, and then the Roman Empire collapsed, but it actually did not collapse. It just merely transformed into the Roman Catholic Church. And through that mind virus, through that control matrix of spiritual domination, that you can see all throughout the cathedrals and all throughout the infrastructure of the Vatican, the Holy Roman Catholic Church. Pure spiritual black wizardry and domination of the peoples. But this mind virus is, what I was going to say is that has resulted in people who only believe in the five sense reality, that what their five senses report to them is real, and if it goes against the narrative of the mind programming from the organized religion enslavement protocols of the Roman Catholic Church, then it's not real. It's it's woo, and it's all to be laughed at and ridiculed. But no, this book, and in particular this chapter 3, very scientific, and explains in part and how what all has been taking place from the energies that are coming from source into this cosmos. And I'm going to read a couple paragraphs from this book. But the devas, the nine, the angels, the great light beings from source, because source became aware. Source, from a single nucleus, put forth all of this creation, which we as humans, because of our ocular apparatus, only perceive 4% of this creation through the physical matter portion, through our eyes, that is. But if you have super senses, if you've managed to raise your energies, you have other senses that perceive through your intuition, then that's just the beginning. You know the rest. Clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairsentience, etc., so on and so forth, are just some of the examples of the higher super sensible senses that you perceive this other 96% of reality that we exist within multidimensionally. But the devas, the nine, were created from the initial source awareness to organize. We're talking about this massive, and it's still going on right now. It will continue infinity of creation but it involves this ordering of this knowledge to step down into where we're at as humans, and where our consciousness is housed in these genetic vehicles. So the devas, the nine, the archangels, is known in some, the rishis, the solar rishis, but it's these beings, these higher order beings who represent source and creation and the ordering thereof, built. And they are constantly, and this is from the book Downloads from the Nine, and are constantly building the substructure of the union of a nitrogen base and a pentose in order to balance the disruption. They are also constantly linking the N-glucosidiol that was established by the beings of light between the C1 of the pentose and a nitrogen unit of the base by the disintegration of a water molecule. This marriage of particles came to be known on Earth by the name of nucleoside. With the creation of nucleoside, the nucleotides went on to occupy a second place, and at present they are the phosphoric esters of the nucleosides. As you continue reading the nucleotides, now it's what's throughout this book, Downloads from the Nine, the author emphasizes that the act of you reading this book, and I'm in the video thumbnail, I'm going to post one of the sacred geometry images that are part of this book, as well as different ways of ordering words and different formations for you to perceive this information. But I highly recommend getting a physical copy of this book. So anyway, but as you are reading, as you continue reading, the nucleotides are in this moment being irradiated by Davic lights that embrace them, the archangel lights, the solar rishi lights. They are born out of the union of nucleoside with a phosphoric acid molecule that has the silhouette of an iron phosphate, and then in the book it gives the chemical symbol PO4 3 blah blah blah, that bestows upon it the strong acidity necessary to sever the ties with the sinister imbalance, defragmenting the Roman mind virus, the programming of the matrix. Moving further into the past with the intention of understanding the changes that the shadow brought about, it is important for you to know that previously DNA contained 4 material strands, 4 subtle strands, 4 causal strands, and 1 central ethereal strand. Humans had a total of 13 DNA strands, The RNA, on the other hand, had 2 strands in the physical plane, 2 in the astral plane, and 2 in the causal plane, for a total of 6 strands. This is the number of humans that is described in the Bible. It is the original number of strands. In biblical times, Bible scribes and other sacred books scribes used numerology to describe external phenomena in direct relation to the internal cosmos of the physical body. As above, so below, as within, so without. Now, and it continues on in that vein with but what I was talking about, the Bible is actually a book of astrotheology in large parts, but it is also a journey that each person takes. It's a drama that each person takes in their life. And it has been taught wrongly as part of the enslavement protocols of organized religion from the Roman matrix mental domination program. And then this chapter is very interesting. It goes on, and this is actually tying in with what I'm saying about the Roman Empire. The next part of this chapter talks about the Alpha Draconic Conspiracy. And that is essentially what took place with the Roman Empire. You had an invader force come in. It began earlier than that, though, but that was the culmination of this world domination and where we're at today that we're beginning to wake up from. Some people are. Other extraterrestrial races. So I'm going to read from this little part of the subset of chapter 3, the Alpha Draconic Conspiracy, where he talks about other extraterrestrial races, along with the sons of the nebula, began sabotaging the perfect human creation and injected nebula components into cell walls. The embedded deoxyribose into the DNA and ribose into the RNA. As a result, the structure of the sugar molecules in their nucleotides and nucleic acid changed. Humans began to show modifications in their nitrogen bases, mainly adenine, cytosine, and guanine. And then the adenine started to behave differently. Due to the dark virus cells, they began to breathe at a different pace. The cytosine started to form groups of only 3 hydrogen molecules. Guanine was divided into 2 equal and metrical forms, keto and enol, which were driven to embed themselves into cytosine through the 2 hydrogen molecules. He says, we will explain the whole process, meaning the devas, the 9, the archangels, will explain the whole process succinctly to not bore you with complicated chemistry. The children of the nebula, in conjunction with the low-light beings from Polaris and other humanoids from the vicinity of Alpha Draconis, injected a virulent darkness into human DNA and RNA. This virus was immune to light and dissolved the foundation of the living human beings and their 49 corporeal levels, leaving only 3, physical, causal, or the astral, and the subtle. The day that the virulent injection occurred, the children of the nebula deceived and enslaved many beings in the physical and astral realms of eternal consciousness. They targeted first the low-light beings who, due to their ambition and vanity, were tempted with the power of dominating, and thus made a pact to keep their brilliance and to become the masters of the humans. This was a terrible day for them, since they transformed into luminiferous beings with no light of themselves. Luminiferous, I believe, is a term that refers to, like, think of how the moon doesn't necessarily produce its own light. It reflects the light from the sun. And that is who these controllers have been, who are being exposed. And some people are still caught up, mesmerized by these luminiferous beings who are doing nothing but stealing their light themselves, because these luminiferous beings with no light of themselves now, they are just like the moon, only capable of reflecting light. Although we do not know for sure, we believe they were promised lordship and godly rule over the earth. What they do not understand is that great suffering lies ahead for them, not because they will be punished by the source of radiant essence, but because the darkness will embrace their minds and hurl them into a whirlwind of oblivion, where they will lose the memory of their eternal self. The spawn of darkness also used the 3-dimensional Alpha Draconians to implement changes in the human physical body. So I'm going to hold up there. I'm going to read this next paragraph. The Alpha Draconians are servants of the shadows. Their hearts have been tainted by the darkness for aeons. They are slaves that enslave and enjoy causing human suffering and instilling terror. Since they possess psychic powers, physical force, and intelligence superior to that of terrestrial creatures, they have a great advantage. If you are unfortunate enough as to run into one of them, just run in the opposite direction and shout out loud the names of Michael, Anabel, Shabiel, Nabiel, Uriel, Yoriel, Adrimitiel, Gabriel, and Sabael, and we will certainly protect you. Humans have also been modified by another race that comes from a parallel universe. They are from the Zeta Reticulus constellation. They have another agenda and do not spend all their time working with the children of darkness. Spend all of their time working with the children of darkness, as they have understood that doing so would mean perpetual slavery. And so, yes, I can. So I highly encourage anyone, especially the viewer who inquired about chapter 3 of this book. I just encourage you to somehow get a copy of this book, physical copy of this book, have it in your possession, and it's worth it. Trust me. But that's just from chapter 3, and this book has so much information in it, and it's such a wide variety of information. And in particular, this chapter 3, was very, very technical. But as far as children of darkness and the enslavement protocols, I'm telling you, anyone who right now is caught up in darkness, who is part of that program, if you think that your little bit of gain for this worldly life, this worldly pleasure, that's why I focus on the message of Yeshua so much, and hermetics and just alchemy in general, is learning how to put everything in its place. Not that the physical world is totally evil. It's been necessary for our expansion in consciousness. But those who forsake their eternal Atman, the eternal energetic source intelligence for worldly gain, turn away, turn back now. Because brothers and sisters of planet Earth, we are sending you this knowledge to help you awaken and understand our real existence and fulfillment as thinking beings of the universe, as conscious fractals of source awareness. This knowledge governs the cosmic laws of the ageless wisdom of our Creator, the one origin. We belong to the etheric dimension, to the mental worlds of Alpha Centauri. Our task is to transmit to you this knowledge, which had already been given to you in Lemuria and Atlantis. You lost it in the darkness of your minds due to greed and ambition. You used it for domination and power, and concealed it for your own benefit. You will have to retrieve it from the depths of your memories. Channel it, organize it, download it. This is the only way you will be able to become what you were, pure of heart and mind. You will have to work hard on your thought energies so that you can enter the alignment that is taking place May 2025. 2025 is the year, folks. All those with open minds and noble hearts will be prepared to be transported, to ascend into the kingdom of heaven on earth that is now the New Jerusalem. Brothers and sisters, we are helping you so that you may make this passage with knowledge, understanding, and love. This important knowledge of the source of all, one being, that the collective, that we all, the law of one, will give you guidelines to elevate your energy when you begin to open up to your own intuition, your own higher self. Will begin to guide you, but you will have to work profoundly on your thoughts with belief, dedication, perseverance, willpower, and inner strength, so that you will really be able to raise the frequency of your thoughts and prepare for the coming extraordinary changes. This planet is preparing to undergo significant energetic movements, and you will have to measure up by elevating your energy, because those who do not manage to do so will be left behind until the next alignment that will take place in the next great Manvantara. Brothers and sisters, we love you very much. We are very close to you. Our motherships are in the sky, closer than you can imagine. Awaken to the universal knowledge. Elevate yourselves and let the light of love enter your hearts. This is the only way you will get out of the darkness of your lives called ignorance. And when you do so, you will find freedom. We are all, we are one, We are love. We rise. Namaste. Namaskaram.